person's future is often shaped long before success appears in real life. It begins in a quiet place, their thoughts. You've probably heard this timeless idea: what you think about, you become. And if that's true, an uncomfortable question follows. Why do so many people struggle to succeed? Do they not plan for the future? Do they not see their own potential? Today's story will answer those questions through a simple encounter between a beggar and a businessman. And along the way, you'll learn a few English words that you can actually use in daily life. Stay with me until the end, because this story's turning point might become your turning point too. In a busy old railway station, where announcements echoed all day and footsteps never stopped, there lived a beggar. Every morning he sat near the platform with a small cloth bag and a simple tin cup. He survived by asking travelers for coins as they waited for their trains. Here's our first word: alms. Alms means money or food given to poor people. So the beggar asked for alms. Some people ignored him. Some avoided eye contact. A few dropped a coin quickly and walked away. Over time, the beggar began to believe something dangerous. I have nothing, and I am nothing. One day, he noticed a well-dressed businessman step onto the platform. The man's suit was sharp. His shoes were polished. He walked with calm confidence, like someone who belonged anywhere. The beggar's eyes brightened. This man must be rich, he thought. If I ask him, he will surely give me a generous amount. Generous means willing to give more than expected. With hope rising in his chest, the beggar approached and stretched out his hand. But instead of reaching for his wallet, the businessman looked at him and asked, "Do you always take from others, or have you ever given anything to anyone?" The beggar froze. He had never heard a question like that. Confused, he replied, "Sir, I'm just a beggar. I survive by asking for alms. I have nothing to give." The businessman didn't insult him. He didn't laugh. He simply nodded and said calmly, "If you truly believe you have nothing to give, then you shouldn't be surprised that you receive so little." The beggar stared at him. The businessman continued, "I'm a businessman. I believe in exchange. If you offer something, you can receive something. But if you offer nothing, you shouldn't expect a reward. Exchange means a trade, giving something and receiving something in return." Then the businessman stepped onto his train and left. The beggar stood there, stunned. The words repeated in his mind. I believe in exchange. If you offer nothing, don't expect a reward. That night, the beggar couldn't sleep. Not because he was hungry, he was used to hunger, but because for the first time, a new thought entered his mind. Maybe the problem isn't only my situation, maybe it's my mindset. Mindset means the mental attitude you live with, the way you think about yourself and the world. He whispered to himself, "But what can I give? I'm a beggar. I have nothing." Still, the businessman's message echoed. If you want to receive, you must first give. 2 days passed. The beggar hardly asked anyone for money. He was too busy thinking. On the 3rd day, as he sat near the edge of the station, he noticed something small but beautiful. A patch of wildflowers was blooming near the tracks. Bright colors, fresh petals, alive. Here's another word: vibrant. Vibrant means full of color and life. The flowers looked vibrant. And suddenly an idea struck him. What if I don't only take? What if I offer something in return? He stood up, walked carefully to the flowers, and gently plucked a handful. Then he returned to his spot. A traveler dropped a coin into his cup. The beggar smiled, truly smiled, and offered the traveler a flower. The traveler looked surprised, then accepted it with a small laugh. Another traveler gave a coin. The beggar offered another flower. This time the traveler smiled and said, "Thank you." And something changed inside the beggar's heart. For the first time, people weren't giving only out of pity. They were receiving something small but meaningful. As the days passed, something incredible happened. More people began giving him coins, not because they were forced, not because they felt guilty, but because the exchange felt good. And the beggar noticed a pattern. When he had flowers, people gave more generously. When he ran out of flowers, the donations decreased. He thought, so it's true, people like to receive something in return. But an even bigger change was happening. He began to see himself differently, not as someone who only begs, but as someone who offers. One day, the beggar spotted the businessman again, sitting by a train window. His heart beat faster. He rushed over and said, "Sir, today I have something to give you. If you give me money, I will give you flowers in return." The businessman looked at him and smiled. He handed him cash and took a few flowers. Then he said, "You've understood the value of exchange." And after a short pause, he added, "Today, you are no longer only a beggar. You have become a businessman." The train began to move, and the businessman disappeared again. The beggar stood still, holding the money and staring at the empty space where the businessman had been. "A businessman," he repeated. At first, it sounded impossible, but then it sounded true, because the beggar realized something clearly. People weren't giving him money because they felt sorry for him. They were paying for what he offered. And if that was true, then he wasn't a beggar. He was a trader. He was a seller. He had value. That day, he made a bold decision. He left the railway station and never returned as a beggar again. 6 months later, at the same railway station, 2 well-dressed men met. They shook hands politely, but one of them looked closely and asked, "Do I know you?" The other man smiled. "Yes," he said, "we've met twice before, right here, on this very train." The first man frowned, trying to remember. Then his eyes widened. "Wait, you're the beggar." The second man laughed. "Yes, that was me." He straightened his coat and said calmly, "But today, I run a successful flower business, and I'm traveling to expand it." The businessman stared in amazement. "That's incredible," he said. "What changed?" The flower seller smiled and replied, "You taught me one of life's greatest truths. We receive only when we give." He paused, then said, "And I realized something even bigger. I was never truly a beggar. I was a businessman all along. I just didn't see myself that way." The 2 men shook hands again, now as equals, and boarded their trains, heading towards their futures. Here is the lesson. Life is shaped by how we see ourselves. If you believe you are small, you will live small. If you believe you have nothing, you will offer nothing. And if you offer nothing, you will receive little. But the moment you recognize your value, the moment you choose to give, to contribute, to create, your world begins to respond differently. So don't limit yourself. See yourself as capable. See yourself as valuable. See yourself as someone who can offer something meaningful to the world. Because when your thoughts change, your actions change. And when your actions change, your future changes too.